So this is a video I've been wanting to make for quite a long time, but I've just never got round to doing it. I've had quite a few comments on my YouTube, which I've really appreciated, especially on some of the videos about Clarence, you know, which people have now started to find. And I didn't initially do it all for people to find. It was only so when I'm gone, my kids can look at it and learn a bit of history about where I am. That was the idea of it all. But it's funny how things, even in me now, are progressing, where I'm happy to tell his story to other people. Do you get what I mean? It's just funny how things develop. So hence why I'm making this little video today, just to share with you, and also to add on to the previous couple of videos which I'd done before I'd started doing all the demolition and everything of the house what was there before my garden project. So best get on with it. So one of the things what Clarence used to tell me about was a silver watch. And he used to say there's a silver watch in the house. So anyway, it died, and I went through the house and I went through everything. Never ever found this watch. So as far as I was concerned, it had gone a lot of years before or whatever. Anyway, so I started doing the soft strip of the house prior to demolishing it. So, you know, moving doors, skirtings, architraves, carpets, everything, just to leave the structure. And in one of the rooms, there was a big dresser, like a big sideboard. It was too big for me to lift out on my own. So I took the drawers out, and then I got my wrecking bar to prise the top of it off to put it all in its components. I put my bar in under the lid, prised it up, and then this secret drawer popped out. And what was in it? The watch. So there's the watch. Turn it over. You open it up. It's difficult to say. There's an inscription in there. So what the inscription says is Fred Bannister, Foxholes. Now Foxholes is a village just a few miles up the road. Now I went on to Ancestry and did some research and bits and bobs, and I've been able to trace it back. I've got to Clarence's granddad, and in the family tree you can see there's some Bannisters, but then there's a couple of links missing, and I think maybe Bannister was Clarence's great granddad, but I'm not sure. I can't find a link, even though Bannisters are in Clarence's family, because Clarence was apostle. I just can't find the link. I did put a post up on a Foxholes Facebook page, and I put some details on, and there is some Bannisters in Foxholes or around Foxholes, and I got some replies, but nobody answered me properly. It was just linking me to other people. Do you know this person? So I didn't get much joy. I did find a watch repairer, for a better word, in York, and it's a watch repairer who I didn't know at the time has been on that programme on TV where the people take their heirlooms in and they're all broken or something, and then they repair them and they go back and they're all crying because they've got all the heirloom back. They do it in like a big country shed. Well, he's the watchman, and I didn't know that at the time, who was on that. And he had something like an 18-month waiting list for work, and he says, contact me again and I'll have a look at the watch, because I'd have liked to have got it going. Not necessarily cleaned up, I'd like to keep it with all the dents in and everything, but just got it so it worked. So that's a silver watch, which lucky found. And then I've got another couple of bits which I did, which I'll show you. So this was Clarence's sewing machine, and I had it all cleaned and waxed up and made into a lamp. Let me just turn big light off. It's quite pretty. So that was just another thing what I did for him. And then I did this too. That's a fire extinguisher that was in his house. So I had the top cut off and polished up. And that's his walking stick. Bless him. That's what he used to. So I've kept that. Another thing what he did, he used to be in his wheelchair because he couldn't walk at the end. So anyway, I'd gone out, and one day we used to have to take him to toilet and everything. And one day he'd been in the garden and I'd gone to shop and came back, and he said, "Oh lad, I've been to the toilet." And I thought, how have you done that? Anyway, I walked in the kitchen and there was all mud from his wheelchair wheels on the floor, and he'd been through here and he got over the hearth and he chipped all the hearth with his wheelchair brick. He then got into the bathroom and he'd propped himself on the basin and the bath, and he'd managed to go. So I've got an everlasting chip in the hearth just to remind me of him. Right, let me take you outside because I've got a bit of a story to tell you. So he used to love coming out in the garden, but the problem was, well, it wasn't a problem, but when it rained he had to go in, and because he was in his wheelchair, you know, it wasn't always easy. So I did a few things in the garden to make it better for him. So let me show you. So there, where that wall is, and them two bins, there used to be a two-roomed timber bungalow. So I demolished the bungalow and built this. I built it all out of oddments what I had, bricks and copings. All the copings came from a school. The bricks came from a plant room. There's all slabs under there, they came from a plant room. The stone I had, so it was all just built out of oddments. Greenhouse has seen better days. We had storms a few years ago and it demolished this little greenhouse. It took all the roof off that, which I've still got to sort out. I've got a load of shingles for it, but because I'm on my garden project, these posts here, there was more posts here and there, and timbers going across, and the storm just took it all away. So they're projects for another day. Right, so back to this. So the idea was I could get him up the path and then put him on here, and he had somewhere flat to go. The greenhouse wasn't there, or any of this wasn't there. It was just a big flat area where he could come and sit. So then we needed to sort something out for when it rained. So again, I knocked this up, that, all out of scrap and oddments. And what there used to be here, there used to be a big market garden greenhouse. And then where that lamp is, there was a big cupboard. This cupboard, it had a gas boiler in it like you'd find in your house. And in the greenhouse, there was all 2-inch cast iron pipes. And when for heating the greenhouse, and when Clarence was a lot younger, he used to sleep under the benches in the greenhouse. He did. So I built this. I think I had 2 of the windows. The door I got from the tip. Them timber, they had all bark on them at one point. They came from a wood yard, so did the cladding. But everything else, I scavenged and everything. Just a shame I lost the roof in the storms, as I said. And then I built a pond here. So this was the pond just there. And what it was 2 ponds, 2 separate ponds. And then I cut the ends out and then fiberglassed a full section in the middle, so I made a big longer pond. And then there used to be a bridge over here into there, and I made all that wide enough to get his wheelchair in. So the idea was that if it was raining, he could be on this little patio area, and then he could just go across the bridge and sit in there and still be outside. So anyway, we used to sit in there, and I used to go on about building cascading waterfalls on the pond. So his head back, he'd cross his arms, and he only had a couple of little teeth, and he'd be there and he'd go and God, it used to be so funny. Anyway, well, he died. Anyway, he died, and he always wanted his ashes to be buried in the garden, right? That's what he wanted. So his ashes are under the deer. The deer is his headstone. And then that's a bench there. And then, you can't see it because of the snow, there's all cascading waterfalls come down. Oh dear. Got to sip myself off in a minute. Hang on. So, there's waterfalls come out that top bit, come down a stream, down a waterfall there. Then there's waterfalls come out there, splits into 2, comes down into a pool there and down there. And then there's another waterfall comes out there and in. Those are all the pipes and filters for it. So I built the cascading waterfalls. Right. The deer. So that is the deer. And he called him Archie. Clarence had nothing, right? Really, really poor man. You know, you'd say on the bread line. But where Clarence was exceedingly rich was with nature and plants. He loved it. He never had family, but nature and plants were his fam. Anyway, he hadn't been out the village in years. So I took him, put him in the car and took him to a garden centre at York. And we had a look round, and then he's in his wheelchair. Went to the tills. I forget what we bought. And as we was at the tills, he says, "Lad, take me back to look at that deer." So went back, and it was £540 was this deer. And he said, "Lad, too expensive." and it was the only thing what I'd ever known him want. So anyway, came home, spoke to my wife Shirley, and I came back the following day and got the deer. Well, the deer is unbelievably heavy. It took 6 of us to carry it into my car. Anyway, gets it in the back of the car and it marked all my bumper, everything, scratched it all to high heaven. So anyway, came back, and Graham over the road helped me get it out the car. How we got it out was, we just had to drag it out. Back of my car were trashed. Anyway, I have another drive. I've got 2 drives, one at one side and one at the other. So I brought Archie the deer up the drive, because Clarence couldn't see that drive from his room where we sat, and we brought the deer up. I put the deer there. On a morning we used to have a fox that used to come into the garden, and it had come down there and it had sit here, and Shirley had opened the door there and throw sausages for the fox, and the fox would eat the sausages and then take the sausages away. It used to limp, did the fox, so we think that's why it came to us looking for food, you know what I mean, because it wasn't catching it itself. Anyway, I goes inside and says to Clarence, "Fox is here." "Anyone at this time, lad?" I went, yeah, he's in garden, come on, let's go and have a look. So anyway, wheeled him through the house backwards and gets him half in and half out the kitchen door. And I went, "Bloody hell, Clarence, fox has gone." And he says, "Too much noise, lad, too much noise." And I said, "But his mate's here." He went, "His mate?" And I went, "Yeah." The deer were there, and I wheeled Clarence round this way, like this. Just wheeled him round all slowly. Da-da. He looked at me. He was only a tiny man, and he had the most loveliest, kind, gentle face. And he looked at me, and he just broke down in tears. "Oh, Stanley's here. This is Stanley, the blackbird. He comes to be fed. Come on then, I'll get you some." Let me just feed him. I keep some nuts on the side. They're for the squirrels. And these are mealyworms and suet flavoured pellets for Stanley. Here. Come on. Come on then. So he had the most kind, gentlest face, and he looked at me and he just broke down. He wheeled himself over to the deer and he's stroking the deer and cried his eyes out, and he's looking at me, stroking it, and he said, lad, I've never known kindness like it." So anyway, Shirley had made tea were ready, so he goes into the table, and Clarence had always clear his plate. He'd pick his plate up and he'd get his knife and he'd scrape any gravy or anything like that down and get it on his knife and eat it off his knife, and so the plate was always immaculate. So anyway, we're sat at the table, I'm eating my tea and I'm looking at him and I'm laughing and crying, and he's looking at me. He kept looking down at his tea and looking up, and he's all tears in his eyes, couldn't eat his tea. Oh God, it was brilliant. So anyway, that was his deer, and the deer is his headstone, and his ashes are under the deer, and I made the cascading waterfalls for him. So that's where he is. And the idea of all these videos was to tell the story to my kids so that they understood my connection with all this property and how it, some history to it and everything else, and that's what kicked it all off. So I'm not a religious man. I wouldn't say there is a God, but at the same time I wouldn't say there isn't. Whether I say there must be something, I'm not sure. So what I'm going to tell you now all happened at once, within a really short period of time. So when I buried Clarence's ashes under the deer, I could not face taking him out of the plastic pot because I didn't want to see him or remember him as a pile of dust. So I buried him under the deer in the plastic pot. Over the years it's bothered me at certain times, thinking, is he in the ground wanting to get out and he can't? So that played on my mind, but I never felt strong enough to dig down and sort his ashes out properly. Anyway, when I came to be demolishing the house for building my garden project, I wanted to go find Clarence's mum and just thank her for Clarence and tell her the story and, you know, explain my future plans and everything. And I just felt it was important to me, but she'd been dead a lot of years. So I went on to, well, I had a walk up the local cemetery. I walked every single grave, not in the cemetery. So I thought, right, but I knew they were originally from a village called Helperthorpe. Called Helperthorpe. So I went on one of the find a grave sites, put in the last name, 2 results. So I clicked on the site and there was 2 photos. One you could tell wasn't the right one. Clicked on the second one and the writing had faded, but I thought that's it. Anyway, I went to Helperthorpe village church. It was his mum and his dad. Couldn't believe it. Got pretty emotional, I can tell you. So anyway, I sat there, had 20 minutes with them, and a beautiful little spot. Anyway, I then had a grave pot made, you know, a little flower thing with artificial flowers in, and then I took that back a second time and left it, you know, put it on the grave and everything, just as a thank you very much. So then I felt, so I did that, and then my nana has been dead a lot of years, and I'll get spooky here. My nana's been dead a lot of years. That's my kitchen. I was stood there, I turned round, and out that window there, my nana were looking at me. And I'm not daft and I'm not stupid, but my nana were there and she were looking at me, and it freaked me out. So that was that. Then I had Clarence to deal with, and the time was right. And because I was doing a story, I filmed what I'm going to tell you, but I'm not putting it on YouTube. I'm not going to put it in here, it's private. Maybe more because I feel daft. So anyway, this day I thought, right, I'm going to dig down under the deer, take Clarence out of the plastic pot, put him in the ground all respectfully and everything. So this day it was all overcast and dull. I'm there, I moved the deer, I dug down, got the pot, and the second I grabbed hold of the pot, the sun there came out and I was bathed in beautiful sunlight, but the sunlight was only here, and in the videos you can see all the shadow here. I just broke down because I got it in my head. It's Clarence going up. It was a moment and a half, and everything I put him out the pot, said a few words to him and covered him all up, and I was bathed in the most glorious sunshine. And on my video, I'm crying my eyes out bloody obviously, but you can just see the line of shade and the line of sun. That was shade, that was sun, a massive ball of fire up there. It was a moment and a half, I can tell you. So I've had people ask me, my garden project there, I've had people stop and ask me, are you selling it? And the answer will be no, because of Clarence. It'll be never be sold, and hopefully I've got plans in place where it won't be sold after I'm gone, fingers crossed. Because of Clarence, I'd hate to think somebody would come in and just bulldoze everything and not have the respect. That was the name board off the house, off Clarence's house. It was called the Haven, so I've always kept that, and I have it on my shed. Let me show you something else if I can. I've got a couple of things I can show you, but I don't know if I'll get into the lock on my top shed. Let me go see. He was organist at Helperthorpe Church for a while, I'm not sure how long, and he always had this in his house. So anyway, quite a few years ago, when I went to Helperthorpe Church about his mum, I called in at the vicarage, took a photo of this, explained what I had, and said, I'm not sure if it was from here, but if it was and you'd like it back, you are welcome to it. Anyway, the lady said she'd get in touch with me. Never heard anything back, so I've still got it here. Let me show you something else, if I can get in my shed. Can't get in my shed, look, it's all blooming frozen up. Let's go defrost. So Clarence used to like to do painting, and he also used to do a lot of fossils and make jewellery with Whitby jet. Anyway, and bonsai trees. He started the local bonsai society tree club thing, and he used to have hundreds of bonsai trees, and they were absolutely fantastic. And he got in the paper a few times, and he used to breed Rottweilers, and he did that for a lot of years. And he was also village florist, and he used to make a lot of wedding flowers and things like that. And that was his old piece of, you know, he used to put paper on for wrapping them up, and this is where he used to put all his orders. So I've kept them and just put them up in my shed. Right, so as part of his painting, he had a painting in his house. And what it was, his mate got cancer. And Clarence did this painting. And the man's cancer went into remission. And Clarence says to him, "You'll never get the cancer back." And his friend said, "Why?" And Clarence says, "Because I've got it." And he painted that. And that is Clarence's black hands with the man's cancer, which Clarence is holding. And Clarence used to say, as long as he had hold of the cancer, the man, I'll never get it back. So I put it up in my shed. So that picture will always be up. And while it's up, the man won't get the cancer back. He'll be long dead now, but that's the story. And that's what's happening with it. It won't be taken down. That was Clarence as a young man. Bless him. That was his mum. How she's got that kind, gentle face with the gentle features. That's just how Clarence was. I never met her, she'd been dead a lot of years, but that was his mum. Well, that's a bit more about Clarence in the story, so I'm pleased I've done this because I've been wanting to do it a while. So anybody watching this, thank you very much. And I will make another one because I've got more stories and I just like to record it, so oh dear.